Machine gun just went off. Out of Seattle. Oh my God.
Chaos erupting in downtown Seattle after a shooting leaves 3 people dead and 4 injured. New updates from officials as we go on the air. And more than 1 million acres burned. The sobering statistic from fire officials as one wildfire shuts down a part of I-84. Plus, the wife of the Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator shot inside her home. Now their son's facing charges.
I saw families, kids, everyone just like running out of the fair, and he had told me like just run, active shooter. Someone was yelling active shooter.
Right now at noon, we're learning new details about a shooting that erupted in Seattle over the weekend. 3 people are dead and 4 are hurt, with a 2-year-old child among the injured. Well, good afternoon and thank you for joining us. I'm Tim Gordon. Seattle police just held a press conference and now believe that 2 people were exchanging fire in the crowd. Police arrested a 15-year-old boy last night in connection to the shooting and say a second suspect is still on the run. The shooting happened on the final night of the annual Bite of Seattle Food Festival that attracts more than 300,000 people. Seattle police were already at the scene and immediately confronted and arrested one of the shooters. 2 witnesses at the festival said they heard 7 to 8 shots, with another person saying they heard even more.
At least 24 shots. It was multiple. It sounded like an automatic weapon.
Seattle police say the people killed included a 19-year-old man, a 44-year-old man, and a 56-year-old woman. Police also say there is no threat to the public at this point. The 15-year-old suspect expected in court this afternoon. Well, closer to home, Oregon Emergency Management saying more than 1 million acres have burned across Oregon already this summer. And a heads up, if you're driving to the east side of the state, I-84 is closed in both directions between Baker City and Ontario due to the Fox Fire you see there. It's already burned more than 40,000 acres just west of Nelson. ODOT saying there are no local detours around this. They say routes like Oregon 245 are really not suitable for interstate travel and just to avoid the area. And over the weekend, a new fire popping up in the Mount Hood National Forest. These are pictures of the grasshopper fire near Pine Hollow. This fire has mainly been growing north and west. Crews overnight were focusing on holding the southern fire line. That fire is estimated at around 10,000 acres now. Meanwhile, the Ikawa Butte fire is still burning near Sisters. More than 1,500 personnel are working to put out the 27,000-acre fire. Crews have been holding and strengthening fire lines along active areas and around structures, I should say, and they're mopping up the northern and southern areas. So if you're driving through that area, you're asked to please look out for fire engines and other equipment there on the scene. Near Warm Springs, about 2 hours east of Portland, 2 wildfires have now merged into one. We're talking about the Beachcomb and Bench fires. Governor Tina Kotek has invoked an emergency act, which gives the state access to more resources to fight those growing fires. Devin Haskins has an update this afternoon.
And at the last update last night, the 2 fires merging and growing, more than tripling in size. The winds in central Oregon helping push this fire across Highway 26 at one point, shutting down the highway for a time as it burned through that highway now back open. There are level 1, 2, and 3 evacuation levels for the combined fire, with fire officials saying there are still about 2,400 homes under evacuation orders. About 250 firefighters are working to control these fires, including by helicopter. KGW News caught up with longtime Warm Springs resident William Wilson, who's in the evacuation area. He chose to stay home and try and keep his home safe instead of leaving.
The home itself is not what's valuable to me, but it's the contents inside. All the things that I've gathered over the years, all my belongings, all my mementos, pictures, that type of stuff. I'm not going to be able to gather all that up and remove all that in a short period of time.
Officials are saying it's really hard to get a really accurate idea of how large these fires are because of all the smoke in the area, and they're still trying to understand how many homes have also burned. Back to you.
Thank you, Devin Haskins. And in Beaverton, people got together on Saturday to talk wildfire season and how to stay safe. The host of the event, Stand Strong Beaverton, wanted to talk about how climate change and the rollback of government regulations are impacting the fire season.
They are not standing up to big issues like the climate crisis today. In fact, they're actively making it worse. We've found that state level action has always been important for environmental protection, and Oregon has always been a leader and needs to continue to be.
They also talked about what people can do about it at the local and state level. All right, stay with KGW for ongoing coverage this wildfire season. You can look for updates on kgw.com with the latest evacuations and progress toward containing the fires. And with all that in mind, we want to turn things over to meteorologist Rod Hill, who's up on the weather deck tracking the very latest conditions across the state. Hey, Rod.
Yeah, Tim, and you just did, but I think we really need to hammer home. If you're traveling anywhere, you have a road trip planned across our state, you need to check the latest conditions before you leave. We just had that story that US 26 was closed for a while because of that fire out near Warm Springs, now reopened. I am up here on the weather deck, brought to you by Rick's Custom Fencing and Decking, and it's a beautiful sunny day. The wind flow is hitting my face. That means the wind is coming in from the west, and that will continue to keep all wildfire smoke on the other side, the east side of the Cascades. Air quality improved for some areas, but still a real problem for other parts of our state. Here's a look at the latest air quality map. The west winds have cleared out that Sun River Bend area for the most part. Air quality in that region is good to moderate, but you get just east and you start seeing the red dots of the unhealthy air and the purple dots as you head out farther to eastern Oregon across Crook County. Very unhealthy air quality is the report. And here it is graphically or visually on our smoke map, and you can see just outside of Bend the orange and red colors all the way out toward Pendleton. This is really thick areas of wildfire smoke. Now this will continue to move and thin in some areas tomorrow as westerlies move in and continue to kick the smoke even more to the east. That's Seaside Live for you. Our temperatures with sunshine, not too bad. It is 80 out in Pendleton, but Tim, part of the fire weather news is that most of eastern and central Oregon, most areas, will stay in the 80s today, and that certainly beats the heat of the 90s. For now, back to you, sir.
Sure does. All right, thanks, Rod, very much. And here's a look at some national headlines this afternoon. The son of Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy is charged with shooting his mother Sunday night in a Washington, D.C. suburb. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office says 27-year-old Elijah Bieniemy is being held without bond. He's charged with the use of a firearm and commission of a felony and discharge of a firearm inside of a dwelling. Officials say Mia Bieniemy was shot multiple times. The Chiefs organization says it's aware of the incident, but not commenting further out of respect for the family's privacy. Well, for a third straight day, the U.S. and Iran have paused attacks as mediators work to revive ceasefire talks. It follows 2 weeks of strikes by the U.S., sparked by Iran's firing at ships trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. 18 service members have been killed and more than 600 others injured since this war began. Meanwhile, gas prices here in Portland have risen 5 cents per gallon in the last week. That's according to Gas Buddy. It's 64 cents higher than a year ago. Right now, the state is averaging $4.63 a gallon regular. Up in Washington, the state average sits at $5.11 a gallon. The Iran war is just one of the many issues on the minds of voters heading into the midterms this fall. Today, President Trump is hitting the road with 99 days to go until the election. NBC senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the latest.
With less than 100 days until the crucial midterm elections, President Trump is preparing to head to battleground Michigan today to tout the economy, despite rising gas prices and uncertainty over the Iran war.
We have the hottest country anywhere in the world.
Meanwhile, in a Senate race that could determine control of Congress, Democrats in Maine have picked their choice to replace Graham Plattner, who dropped out earlier this month after a slew of controversies, including a sexual assault allegation, which he denies. Former State Senate President Troy Jackson will now take on Republican incumbent Susan Collins.
One way or the other, this November, she will answer to the people of Maine.
I never take any election for granted. No one will outwork me.
Republicans trying to hold on to a slim majority on Capitol Hill, though Democrats see a potential opening in Maine.
Every time it's mattered, and we could have used her vote to really put a check on this president, she stood with Donald Trump. I think we have an opportunity here.
Another closely watched race will be in South Carolina after the shocking death of Senator Lindsey Graham, whose funeral is set for tomorrow. His grieving sister Darlene, who was tapped to fill out the rest of his term, is now running for his seat with the president's endorsement.
I had an inner peace about it, and it's just something I knew I had to do. I had to carry on Lindsay's legacy.
President Trump also ramping up pressure on Senate Republicans to pass sweeping election reforms.
His patience is running out.
The Save America Act would require voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote, but critics say it would make it harder for Americans to cast ballots.
Everybody call John Thune at the Senate. He's the leader of the Republican Party, and tell him to get this stuff approved.